Make sure you check out our sponsor over at 714 Tickets. They take pride in providing their customers with transparent pricing and excellent service. With 714 Tickets, you don't have to worry about hidden fees or surprises at checkout. The price you see is the price you pay. Plus, their team is dedicated to ensuring that you have the best shopping experience possible. And as a special thank you, they're offering a 10% discount on your purchase as well as entering you in a drawing for a free Halos jersey. Also, 5% cash back on your purchase. Only when you use the promotional code HITI at checkout. That's HITI, HITI. Get ready to shop with confidence and discover great deals today over at 714 Tickets.
And welcome everybody. Oh, you're starting. Go ahead, James.
All right. Welcome everybody to the Halos and Infield podcast. Of course, I'm here for Courtney and Todd, giving them the days off like Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon get.
Oh God.
Just the way things are, you know. It's like I try to explain to Todd and everybody else, like my family or whatever, old people, they're like, this is just everybody gets a day off sometime. It's like, no, they have to play every damn game. But you know, I'm happy to be here with you, Fernando, and how are you this evening?
Doing all right. It's Mother's Day. Obviously, my mom's still back in California, so unfortunately, just kind of another Sunday for me. So I went to the batting cages. Luckily, there was nobody there because, you know, Mother's Day. But yeah, got a good workout in, got a good sweat in. Didn't get to do too much because it was raining. How's the weather out in Cali? In the 619, like, I guess 760 where you are.
760, yeah. It's perfect. It's overcast. It's like 62. It's great workout weather. The Angels, of course, tonight were on the this morning, excuse me, was on the Peacock app. Yeah. And you know, I don't have the Peacock app, so I listened to it while working out, came home, ate, worked out again, you know, balled out. That was pretty cool. I had a really good day today.
James having some two-a-days, huh? There you go.
I feel good.
Good.
Good, man. I'm gonna go right
to
sleep though. I'm gonna go right to sleep. You know, Fernando, I almost called you a Lone Star Halo, but
that's fine. That works.
I gotta find tickets somewhere.
Okay.
Some people want to go down to a Padre game, and the next week for Country Weekend, you know, I gotta be there for Country Weekend, of course, and then the next weekend
you gotta be rocking your cowboy boots, huh?
I don't have any. And then it's Beach Weekend as well the next weekend. I got to get my bucket hat on the 26th for the Angel game. So I'm wondering, where would I get tickets, Fernando? You tell me.
Well, here's a silly question, James. Do you like hidden fees?
No, sir.
You don't like hidden fees? Well, I got the spot for you. 714 tickets, 714 tickets, 714 tickets. You can call today and go tonight. And I'm as positive as Magic Johnson that you're going to have a great experience. Yeah, 714 tickets. Definitely check that out, guys. No hidden fees like the other guys. Use the code HITI, that's HITI, for 10% off at checkout. Just put in the promo box, and that's all you need to be saving some money. And not only are you saving money, but you're also getting 5% back for future purchases. What can be better than that, James? Anything? Anything better? Maybe a Big A burger?
Man, we got to go. We got to get Kathy's cookies. I got to get my fat ass out there and get some cookies. Get in that big line for the cookies as well. In the upcoming.
Tell you what, on the 28th, you and I, when we're all there together, we'll go get some Kathy's cookies.
Yeah,
with a Cookie Monster. No limit, man. I'm gonna get a bucket for myself. Actually, funny story before we get into the baseball talk. So during COVID, like beginning of COVID, very, very early, you know, when restaurants were still shut down, Kathy's Cookies, obviously a trailer, you know, they drive around. So they were stationed in Corona, and I was living in Corona Hills at the time. And they had this little drive up where you pull up, you order what you're going to get, and they bring you your cookies. I ordered the bucket, which I'm sure you've had the bucket before. What is that? Probably like 30 cookies?
I've never had it, so I don't know.
You've never had Kathy's Cookies, period, or you've never had the bucket?
Never, ever.
Ah, okay, yeah, we're gonna change that for sure. Well, anyway, they give you like a white bucket. I'd say there's roughly about 30 cookies in there, and I ate about 20 of those cookies in one sitting.
Ooh.
James, I was up all night puking, not because the
Ooh.
cookies were bad, but because I mean, anytime you eat 20 cookies, I had no self control. This was the beginning of the pandemic. We were locked in our houses. I had nothing else to do.
It's amazing that every time I come on a show, it ends up being the Food Network. Anyway, let's get to what
Well, it's
was.
because of your chair segments, man. You're over here reviewing all kinds of yummy food all the time, and not yummy food at the same time.
And look out for that on YouTube. Check out the chair with James. Small little promotion. Let's get into the series that was here on the weekend with the Guardians hosting the Angels. Tyler Anderson took the mound against Logan Allen, the former Padre farmhand. The Angels ended up winning 5-4. Tyler Anderson going 6 innings, 6 hits. He did give up 3 earned runs, 3 walks, and 1 strikeout. It could have been, way worse, and has been for Tyler Anderson. Matt Moore came in, did okay, and Estevez was able to get his 9th save. One theme in this series was Josh Naylor hitting a home run, and he hit one off of Moore in the 8th inning of this game. It was again 5-4 victory, but it was good to see the Angels, have some magic in the 9th inning, scoring 2 off of the best closer stat wise in the league. When you think about it, Emmanuel Clase. He's really good, but the Angels were able to get after him. So what did you think about that first game of this series with Cleveland?
So I don't know if you got to watch the post game show that night. I don't know. Some days you do, some days you can't because of work.
Oh,
but,
yes, I did. I caught it I caught the replay of it.
Oh, at the very end. Yeah, you're right. You jumped in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was watching the entire post game. So Todd got grilled, as did I, because I called in. And we were just getting hammered, really the entire network, because we took the stance of, hey, this was a win. Great. But it wasn't a clean win. Now, at the end of the day, all that matters is the W. They all look the same in the win column. They're all beautiful. But that doesn't change the fact that there's such thing as ugly wins. That doesn't change the fact that it's possible to win the game, but not take the momentum out of it. Cleveland played the better game. And if you think that I'm wrong, you are mistaken. I don't even think the Angels stole this game. I think Cleveland gave it away. Emmanuel Clase, as you said, is one of baseball's best closers. That 105-mile-an-hour cutter is nasty. That is the last pitch on earth I want to be in a batter's box and face. 105 cutter coming in at your hands if you're like a righty or a lefty. Guy's crazy. But yeah, the fact of the matter is it was a good game by the bullpen. Matt Moore did a pretty decent job. I understand he did give up the home run. He left one hanging against Naylor, and Naylor is a great hitter. I know he struggled, and I'm sure we'll talk about that throughout the rest of the series. But you probably watched Naylor play in San Diego during a short time there. This kid's always had potential. He had potential with the Padres, and now he's showing what he's capable of in terms of being a power hitter with Cleveland. And man, oh man, he murdered us. Let me ask you, James, do you think Josh Naylor is officially an Angels killer after this series?
We'll have to see what he does, for the home series. Let's just say that. And because it has to be consistent, it has to be all the time. It has to be like Napoli. It's got to be like Matt Olson, Matt Chapman, Mark Canna. It's got to be it's got to be consistently. But he does get knocked some points because he doesn't play in the division. Because it always seems like a division of opponent owns the Angels, but he does. He really does when you think about it. You mentioned more about Naylor real quick. I remember watching him a couple of years in the Lake Elsinore Storm system, up there in the Padre single A affiliate. And I would always ask my friend, I was like, dude, I heard his name, and he's all over all of the programs, of Lake Elsinore Storm. And I noticed I went a couple years in a row, and I noticed, why is he still here? He had some setbacks or whatnot, and then he found his way finally to the major leagues. As Phil Nevin mentioned, he is a adrenaline junkie. I think we'll get to that later, but it seems like he personifies that. He's the Mr. Animal from like Sesame. I think it's Sesame Street, where he's just crazy all the time, yelling.
The
He gets fired up.
Muppets. The Muppets is what you're thinking about.
Excuse me. All my childhood innocence is gone, so I don't remember anything really about
There
all
you go.
that. So
James is becoming too much of an adult. His inner child is left. He needs to go back to Disneyland or something.
dark
He
as
needs
this
to
shirt.
find it.
That's right.
Oh
So
no!
yeah, it's this dark. But man, I'm always worried about him in the pitching to him, and you saw this was the issue here. Now, really, I'm shocked by Matt Moore. I know some fans are skeptical of getting him because he's what 33. He's maybe at the back of end of his career. He's had one or two Tommy John surgeries, many setbacks, many teams he's been on. But it's great to see. I don't think we expected this from Matt Moore. What's your opinion on Matt Moore?
Almost exactly what you said. I mean, I wasn't super thrilled that we signed him for the price that we did. Well, I think he's in the $8 million ballpark, so it's not incredibly high. He's a 33-year-old guy. He's been around the league. He made his debut in 2011, so he's obviously been there, done that. And the thing that I do like about him is that he's done a little bit of everything. He was a starter, and now he's a reliever, and he really seems to have come into his own ever since last year, going to Texas, becoming a reliever. He had a 1.95 ERA. And currently, he's at a 1.35 ERA through 20 innings. He only pitched 74 innings last year with Texas. So the only thing that I'm a little concerned about is that he is already at 20 innings pitched. He's on pace to, greatly surpass 74 innings. Eventually, there will have to be some kind of stop because he is getting, a little older. 33 is at least the age where your fastball is not quite there. Now, the good news for him is that he has great breaking stuff. And as of right now, it's worked. The defense hasn't let him personally down too much. It's not like Patrick Sandoval, where his defense lets him down all the time, or Reed Detmers even. But I like what I've seen a lot out of Matt Moore. He's one of the only pitchers right now who I feel comfortable with when they come out of the bullpen. Estevez was on that list before today, but we'll get there. What about you with Matt Moore? Were you?
He's really shocked me. I thought he would just evaporate like everyone else in the bullpen almost, that it's just trying to hold on to a spot, honestly. But seeing his numbers, and it showed in the Cardinals series where, we needed someone to step up in those 7th or 8th innings, and he really did. So, like you mentioned, his knuckle curveball is really good. I really like seeing that. It's really amazing. And I just hope for more for him going forward. Let's you have anything more on Friday's win?
One thing is, so yeah, the Angels win 5-4. They got more hits than the Guardians did. They did not get a single home run, which, in today's baseball is impressive if you get a win without a single home run. And both teams left 11 runners left on base. I think the biggest difference here is the fact that the Guardians got 2 errors. But, yeah. That's what I have on that game.
Next game, and this one was just demoralizing, let's just say. It started off
to say the least.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of things I say that's going to be, well, duh. Let's start off in the first inning, as we should. Mickey Moniak led off with a home run on his birthday, 25 years old, happy belated, and he homered to right field, which shows you he has a lot of potential. He's definitely a project. Philadelphia gave up on him, but and he did so well coming out of spring training. If you remember, I think they just went with Brett Phillips because they wanted experience, they wanted speed coming off the bench, and that's why Moniak didn't get the start on the team coming out of there. Renfroe had
maybe they also knew that Moniak wasn't going to be good at distributing the Komodo hat, and they're like, "Well, this is going to be Brett Phillips' job."
That's your boy. That's we make sure we let you know how the exchanging of the hat goes. Yes. Shohei Ohtani doubled. Everything looked good. It was 2-0. Rendon had a scoring fly ball to make it 3-0. You know, everything looked really good. Then the bottom of 6 came up. Rosario, which I think he had the first 2 games he had 3 hits each. So he had a single there. Rengifo made it 4-2. And you thought, okay, we're good. Neto even homered to make it 6-2. And you thought, man, we're good. We're good. Neto so hit his second home run, and then, oh boy, here came the problems. Ramirez had a single to make it 6-3. Josh Bell had a single to make it 6-4. So you thought, okay, what's going on? Let's bring in Tepera. Yikes. Josh Naylor homered, a 3-run shot, make it 7-6. And then just to add some salt to the wound, Andres Jimenez hit a 3-run or a solo shot to make it 8-6. And that was basically ball game. And I mentioned it in the post-game show with Todd. I was like, I am so done with Tepera, and I think that showed that game. So he got the loss, Morgan got the win, Stefan got the save. I was kind of shocked the Guardians didn't bring in what's that dude's name? The number 99, Kurinik. I forgot his name, but or how to say it. But usually he's one guy that you can bring in and he could do well. But what are your thoughts on the blowing game by the Angels on Saturday?
So this game I didn't get to watch live. I watched the highlights. The Wi-Fi was out of my house, so I was like, well, I'm going to go to the Frisco Rough Riders game, the AA team for the Rangers, because I hadn't gone out there. So I was following along on my phone. I was also watching the XFL game on my phone while I was at the baseball game. Why not do both? But I watched the highlights, and man, oh man, you can tell that this was a bad game because when somebody does such a bad job pitching that they get DFA'd the next day, that tells you everything you need to know. The team was willing to eat a couple $1 million left on Ryan Tepera. Now, that might be impressive, but we're also talking about a GM in Perry Manassian who's eaten millions and millions of dollars on Justin Upton and Albert Pujols. So Tepera, at the end of the day, is nowhere near the loss that those guys were financially. The biggest difference is the fact that this was a Perry signing. Ryan Tepera and Aaron Loop, who's still in the organization, but he's injured currently, were both Perry Manassian signings. Now, we were all excited when those two guys were brought on. I'm included, because at the end of the day, if you look at the list of available free agent pitchers after the 2021 season going into 2022, out of the top 5, Raisel Iglesias was on there. We re-signed him. He was the best closer available that year. And then we got Tepera, who was a very, very established pitcher. He played with the Cubs. He played with a bunch of teams. I think he played with the White Sox.
Yeah.
And then we had Aaron Loop, who was just coming off of an amazing year with the Mets. He was the best lefty on the market. And now, a year and a half later, we're sitting here. Ryan Tepera is now designated for assignment. We'll see what's going to happen with him. I doubt anybody is going to trade for him. And I doubt anybody's going to pick him up on waivers because of the remaining contract. They'll probably let him pass waivers, and then he'll probably sign for a league minimum contract. Here's the thing. Ryan Tepera is an established major leaguer. Somebody is going to give him an opportunity, right? And chances are, wherever he goes, he's going to succeed, right? I mean, that's the Angel way. Look what happened with Raisel Iglesias. Everybody gave up on him after last year. He went to pitch the 8th inning for the Braves and had a great rest of his season.
It's amazing.
Ryan Tepera has been around since 2015. Toronto, Chicago, and the Angels.
It seems like he's been around since like 2011, but
2015.
Wow, that's amazing. So yeah, he's DFA'd. I know, and you guys were mentioning about DFAs, about Suarez. The podcast before, I should say. And you're just thinking someone would take a flyer on him. And then with Tepera, you would think, someone that is a contender that, let's say, spend a lot of money on offense, needs a veteran reliever. Well, they can go and find, Tepera. But man, those pitches were served on a platter. Honestly, it was really bad. Let's move
Ryan
on.
Tepera's owed $7 million this year. So I just looked it up. Yeah, he's owed $7 million this year. Obviously, the Angels have already paid his salary for about a month. So we're probably talking like what, maybe just over 6 still owed to him. 6.2, 6.3. We're somewhere in that ballpark. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think anyone's going to take a flyer on him for that price. But once he clears waivers and he's able to sign like a league minimum contract, I think somebody takes him.
I guess that's what I meant. Let's move on to Sunday. So Sunday's game, of course, Peacock 8:30. And I heard Mark Langston talking about, well, these players aren't used to these early starts. And even the Cleveland players aren't used to the early starts because it was 11:30. You have to get there, 3 or 4 hours before. If you have one batting practice, I guess you can get there earlier. But really, this wasn't a game of a lot of scoring. There was a fielding error that made Cleveland go up 1-0 in the bottom of the second. In the top of the eighth, there was a force out, but a run scored to make it 1-1. And then guess who? Josh Naylor hit his sixth home run of the season for himself in right field. 2-run shot to make it 4-1. Ohtani did single in Neto to make it 4-2. And then Taylor Ward reached on a fielder's choice out. Moniak scored. Shohei went to third on that. And then was this game? He was tagged out there where he shouldn't have been going, honestly. It's one of those mistakes that base runners make. But I see it a lot now, Fernando. I watch, MLB.TV. I watch a fair amount of games. And I just noticed more players are taking that chance when the ball's hit to the left side. And they wait and then they go. And the first baseman, after catching the out, will throw the runner out. And it's just like these fundamental things that the Angels really don't do well. Like, they lead the league in errors, I believe. So the defense isn't there. The offense really isn't there. And then the pitching is not there. Anyway, they lose a series 2-1 or 1-2. The Guardians win 4-3. They go to 19-21. The Angels go to 21-20. They are falling. They're in third place. So what did you think about the series finale here with the Guardians?
Oh boy, I don't know if you heard my phone call earlier, but man, oh man, did I go absolutely haywire. I was gonna say ape shit, but either way, I went both during the phone call. So here's where I am on it. So far, this has been a frustrating season in a sense of like the 20 losses we've had, a lot of those could have been avoided. But this win in particular really grind my gears. And the reason for that is Patrick Sandoval pitched an absolute gem. There is nothing more you can ask out of your pitcher. And for any of you guys who might not have seen the game, 7.2 innings pitched, 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 of them earned, but it was because of the home run and the inherited runners there. 1 walk and 5 strikeouts. And then Estevez came in and just gave up that home run to Naylor. Left a cookie, an absolute cookie on a tee for Josh Naylor, who is a fastball hitter up and into the zone, and he took advantage of it. But Patrick Sandoval absolutely is the most bad luck pitcher out there. The guy barely has a double-digit amount of wins in his career, and his career ERA is like in the 3s, low 3s at that. But what really stands out to me is the fundamental mistakes that this team is making and continues to make. Like you said, the errors are a problem. You know what? I understand good hitting exists in the league. This is the most talented crop of baseball players we've ever seen in our life. Is that true, James?
I'd say so.
Yeah, because we know so much more about the human body now, athletic abilities. Obviously, these players are able to take care of their bodies on and off the field a lot more than ever before. So naturally, these guys are gifted. So I understand good hitting exists on every team. It doesn't matter if you're the Marlins, the Pirates, the Guardians, all the way to the top teams, all the way down to the bottom teams, everything else in the middle. Every team now has good players. Maybe not great players in every case, but everyone has good players now. Maybe besides Oakland. But, those guys can still kick our ass, right? These guys are still MLB players. Where I'm getting at here is that I understand the talent is greater than we've ever seen before, but with that being said, the margin for error is so small now. You can't be making little fundamental mistakes. And in this game, what really comes out was the base running. Brandon Drury getting tagged out by lazily not going back to first base is unacceptable. 0%. If that's me, if I'm calling the shots, you're benched. It's over. What are you doing? You know what? I understand it probably slipped his mind, and I understand mistakes can be made. But in a loss like today, that's a critical base runner. That's basic fundamentals. We're taught at Little League, and I'm sure you played Little League, if you're running through first base, you curl towards the dugout, right? You don't curl out towards the field. The second you take a single step towards second base, or really in any direction left of the chalk line, you are considered an active runner going to second base. You need to get back to first immediately or run to second. No ifs, ands, or buts. And he lazily walked over to first base, got tagged out by the catcher of all people. The catcher. Unacceptable. Not okay under any circumstance. On the other thing, like you alluded to.
You know what that reminds me of, Fernando? Last year, remember Taylor Ward and his gaffe with being tagged out by Maldonado? I was so pissed after that play. I was like, no, these assholes ain't even. They're not even focused. Like they're just, I'm gonna try to catch the ball, two-base throwing over here, and then he gets tagged out. Oh my God, I want to go off. But and then Theis had an issue late. I think it was in the 8th inning, I want to say, where he didn't go halfway on the fly ball down the right field line. I remember Joe Adele had a thing like that when Phil Nevin took over. He gave him a little talking to in the dugout about being halfway between second and third. He was stuck at second waiting for a fly ball to either drop or be caught. And it reminded me of the Matt Theis situation today, where, again, he wasn't halfway, and then he was thrown out at second. So these little things, and you mentioned the errors, and then you mentioned the players. I want to get your thought on this. Yes, they are faster. They are stronger. They have the plethora of great, technology and all the rest and recuperation, all that stuff. Is it a concentration thing with these errors? Is it Rendon just being too lackadaisical with his throwing errors? What do you think it is why the Angels have all these errors this season?
I think it's a combination of things. I think the team isn't exactly taking their fundamentals as seriously as they could. And for anybody who's going to get mad at me for saying that, prove me wrong. It shows. Like you said, Shohei Ohtani getting thrown out, going to third base because he didn't wait before the throw was made, before he decided to run. That's just bad base running. Shohei Ohtani's better than that. This guy's one of the most talented players in the league, and the guy's fast enough that the second that ball comes out of his hand, then you run a third base, you're probably safe by a mile. But the fact is he didn't. He was a dead duck out there. The errors also something else that's not acceptable. I mean, Locked On Angels always jokes, I want to see the bill of your hat. I want you to go all the way down, head down, look it into your glove, and then make the throw. It's just these small fundamental mistakes that we all learned in Little League just aren't being followed through. If we didn't go back to the days where the outfielders catch the ball with two hands, then great.
That. Steve Finley.
There you go.
I always remember that. I always learned that. I was like, I'm gonna be Steve Finley every time, and boom. I was teaching little Walter that when I was hanging out with Todd. I was like, yo, catch the ball like this. don't let it fall out and be ready to throw and all that. So
I'm the baseball player who catches it with one hand. That's me.
oh.
Probably why
so
out of my 3 major league tryouts, I never made it.
I wish I could have got anything that far. So the advice out there for little leaguers: keep your head down the whole game. I'm kidding. So yeah, the Angels lose 2 out of 3 there. The reverse Rally Chris special.
The depressed Rally Chris special.
Yeah, we haven't heard from him. We haven't I think we got to him. I said, to
No,
be
it's
a realist
Lakers
or
season,
whatever.
James.
Oh,
It's
God.
Lakers season. He cares about the Lakers right now.
You know where to get your tickets for the conference finals, right? Where
SeatGeek.
Rally Chris did.
SeatGeek, if you wanna pay a bunch of fees,
You don't
or
want
you
that.
can go to 714 Tickets and get the best price out there with no hidden fees, and you can use the code HIDDY at checkout, save 10% and get 5% back for future purchases.
I wish I could say it that fast. Okay, so quickly, I guess we could preview the 4-game series with the Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles, I believe they took 2 out of 3 from Pittsburgh. They did lose today 4-0. They did get shut out. I did watch that series or that game today because I felt like that had more importance. I have to do my due diligence and watch the Orioles. 3 games, 3:35, and then the Thursday game is a morning game. I should be on the post or pregame for that. But the first game on May the 15th, the Orioles, by the way, they're second place in the East, 26-14. Ohtani is going for the Angels. He's 4-1 with a 2.74 ERA. And then Grayson Rodriguez was called up this year for the Orioles. He is 2-0 with a 5.08 ERA. I always say this a lot in the pregame show, but whenever someone is young coming up, you want to get to him right away and frustrate him and fluster him. But, not seeing the pitcher stuff for, never seeing his stuff, that can be hard. But now, and this goes back to what Todd always says about the tablets and whatnot. Like, hopefully they're watching film on Rodriguez. Hopefully they're seeing what he can do. Ohtani has been better, for a while there. He was walking a lot of people and giving up runs. But how do you think Ohtani will fare for that Monday game?
Well, Ohtani struggled, I believe, his last time in Baltimore last season. His last couple starts haven't been as dominant as when the season first started. So this is going to be a test for him. This Orioles team is a lot better than people anticipated. I think a lot of people thought that they'd be competing for a playoff spot. And I understand we're only in May, so obviously I use that term loosely. But last year, they almost made it to the playoffs, and they weren't supposed to be even close to that. They're supposed to be one of the worst teams in baseball, and they surprised the world. And now they continue to stay hot. Grayson Rodriguez is one of the league's top prospects. Now that doesn't mean too much. I mean, we see what happened with Joe Adell. He was a top 5 prospect. I think it was like number 7. He was pretty high up there, highly regarded. And, Joe Adell just hasn't been able to put it together. Is Grayson Rodriguez going to be that guy? There's no way to know, but he's getting his shot right now. And, anytime you get one of these young guys, like you said, you don't exactly know what to expect. You can get the guy who has a 5.08 ERA going into the game, or this guy can throw a no-hitter. That's the thing with young pitchers. Look at Reed Detmers. We caught him on a good day. He got a no-hitter. Young guy, pretty inexperienced against him. The batters didn't know what to expect against him. And sometimes the young guys do something great. But Shohei Ohtani has a real test here. He needs to get the winning mentality back in that clubhouse because the Angels are now only 1 game over 500. It's a team that is in a rut right now. Yeah, did they win 1 game against the Guardians? Sure. But it was a lucky win. They had, essentially 3 bad games. So now Ohtani's got to be the stopper here.
Okay, so the second game of that 4-game series, the Angels will throw out Chase Silseth. He's in place, of course, of Jose Suarez, who is out with the arm issue or elbow issue, whatever it may have been. Silseth with a 3.24 ERA and some long relief stints, let's just say. Orioles are throwing out Dean Kremer. I had to look him up. He's 4-1 this year, 4.97 ERA. He started 8 games. He was drafted in 2016 by LA. They go to UNLV. He's been there since 2020 with the Orioles, let's say. I'm hoping Silseth. I remember his first start ever last year. It was in Oakland, and he fared so well. I think most of that, though, was because Oakland didn't have a lot of talent. Let's just say that. Quickly, before I go to how do you think Silseth will do, Orioles, I really love their team. And I sound weird, but wearing, this shirt and all this stuff around me. But dude, the way they get on base, the way they get over and in, I just love that. You get speed at the top of the lineup with Cedric Mullins, who just hit for a cycle, by the way. So that shows you how he's been as of late. Jorge Mateo at the bottom of the lineup is really good. You throw in Mountcastle, Rochman. They have all these great young players up and coming. And then Anthony Santander. Santander. I keep getting that name wrong. I think he's the most underrated player in the league. I really do. And maybe his stats will back me up on that. Santander. I keep getting that name wrong. But, dude, I think he's the most underrated player. I really enjoy watching him hit, except when it's against the Angels, of course. But I really think he's awesome. And the whole lineup, when you think about it, they just have a good core of people. So how do you think Silseth will fare? This will be, I think, his first start for the Angels this season.
Hopefully well. Real quick, to piggyback off of what you said, I'm right there with you. It's really hard to dislike this Orioles team. It's a young organization who's done it the right way. They're doing it the right way. They're building from within. We've said so many times on this network, this is such a different era of baseball. The best way to be successful for a sustained period of time nowadays is to build a winner from within. The old school methods that the Yankees used to have of buying talent and just plugging them together doesn't work anymore. It's not sustainable, but the Orioles have built from within. And most of those guys you name, Santander, hell, DJ Stewart, Adley Rutschman, all of these guys are good, young, controllable, cheap pieces that are going to contend for years to come in Baltimore. This team's going to be good for a long time. But Chase Silseth, he's pitched really well in AAA and AA coming up this year. He looked comfortable when he first came up, and I'm excited to see what he's able to do on the mound. As far as what we're going to see out of him, I have no idea. He was a wild card last year when he did pitch. I'm hoping he is able to carry that hot success he's had to start this year, and hopefully he can get his first win. But Dean Kremer is 4-1, so obviously he's not exactly a pushover either, regardless of what the ERA says.
All right, so the next game, it would be Griffin Canning, and it feels like with Griffin Canning starting, you get a mixed bag of results, honestly. He fields well and whatever that may bring. He's 2-1 this year. It feels like he's had some, well, not as much as Sandoval, but some hard luck or no decisions or losses, or one loss, I should say. His ERA is pretty high at 6.38. Bradish will be going for Baltimore. I got to look this dude up. He's 1-1 with the 4.5, 6 ERA. He started 6 games. He's not really a strikeout pitcher. The Angels had him 2018. They drafted him in the 4th round. So maybe he has a little motivation going against the team that drafted him. I can always see that happening. But
was
Griffin
he part
Canning,
of the Jose Iglesias trade?
That could be a possibility because that would make sense.
I'm looking up while you talk. Because the other guy was part of the Machado trade.
I see. Griffin Canning, again, 6 star coming in. We're hoping, he can do better things. We know he's not going to be what we thought he was going to be a long time ago, having all those setbacks and whatever the case was. His last start against Houston, he did get the loss. He did give up 5 runs. That's against a very tough lineup. Yeah, that was on that day game. The ball flies out. But How do you think Griffin Canning will fare, and how do you think he's done so far this season?
And real quick before I answer that, Kyle Bradish was part of the Dylan Bundy trade.
Wow.
But yeah, so Griffin Canning has given up 13 earned runs in his last 3 starts combined between Oakland, St. Louis, and Houston. Like you said, Houston, good team. St. Louis, 5 runs, not so much. Oakland, 3 runs, not horrible. He went 5 innings. You would have liked to see him maybe go 1 more. But I don't know, man. Like you said, Griffin Canning is a mixed bag. You don't know what we're going to get out of him. I don't know. I think I'm not excited to see how that game goes. That's one I'm not confident about at the moment.
I'll be honest with you, none of the games, maybe the Otani game, I feel confident about. And then the 4th and final game, it will be on MLB Network at 9:30 a.m. So all you early risers out here at 9:30, and if you have an off day or something or unemployed, you'll be able to watch at work too. Tyler Anderson is going for the Angels, 1-0 record, 5.26 ERA. Tyler Anderson, this year it seems like, he got the 1 start in Oakland, and then ever since then, he hasn't fared well. He had maybe 1 good start between that, but his walks are an issue, giving up the home runs, especially at home. And maybe it's the lineups he's faced, but Tyler Anderson, he's got to do so much better. And then for the Orioles, they're throwing out Tyler Wells. They have a bunch of young players, so this will be a learning experience for all of us, let's just say. He did go to Cal State San Bernardino. I don't know the mascot, but he's 3-1 this year, a 2.68 ERA. This will be his 8th game started, 7th or 7th game, 8th game start, 8th overall game. He's striking out a couple of people here, 39. Excuse me. His last start was against the Pirates on Saturday. He got the win, so he went 7 innings, 1 hit, 2 walks, and 8 strikeouts. So he'll be tough to hit on, I would think. So I know you guys mentioned it in the last podcast, but about Tyler Anderson, we're hoping that he doesn't. Well, he's already become sort of a bust in a way, and I know we're only in May, but he hasn't shown that stuff that, hey, it was validated that that the Angels signed him for a 3-year deal, and he was supposed to be one of those pillar starters along with Sandoval, along with Otani, but it just hasn't come through. And Detmers too. Yeah, he hasn't really been good as of late. He had some flashes and then he's really struggled. But looking at the last start for Tyler Anderson in Cleveland on Friday, he went 6 innings, gave up 6 hits, but 3 runs and the 3 walks. So it's always a mixed bag with him as well, but only got 1 strikeout too. So maybe that's the lineup. What do you think Tyler Anderson needs to do to be better, honestly?
Well, for starters, let me just say San Bernardino is the Coyotes. So for anybody who's screaming in their car like, James, it's the Coyotes. James, it's the Coyotes. Yeah. And I think their mascot's named Cody the Coyote. Anyway, but Tyler Anderson, we need to see some consistency out of him. Now, the good thing about signing Tyler Anderson, it's a 3-year deal. As of right now, that seems like a lifetime contract with the way he's pitching. Seems like a burden. But the good news is we got him for $13.3 million. Not that that's cheap. That's expensive. But look at what the other pitchers signed for this offseason. I don't need Tyler Anderson to be a guy who has a 1-point-something ERA or even a 2-point-something ERA. 5.26 is a little too high for the amount you're getting paid, for the amount of experience you have. He needs to be somewhere in the low 4s. Give me about 150 to 175 innings pitched by the end of the year. If you can get me to that point, okay. Get me 8 to 12 wins. And that's me being generous. For some guy getting paid $13.3 million, we should be talking double digits. But if I can get 8 to 12 wins out of him, I'm going to be happy. But Tyler Anderson needs to figure it out. Unfortunately, he's going to have to figure it out during a day game in a small ballpark. I understand they expanded left field, so it's a little bigger. But the AL East, you're essentially playing in shoeboxes. Who are we kidding? So he's got to have a tough task ahead of him against a lot of young, hungry hitters on a team that's winning. So yeah, it's going to be a tall order. Honestly, James, I'm not feeling very good. I predicted a 2 out of 3 against the Guardians. I'm predicting a 1 out of 4 here. I think Ohtani gets us our lone win, and I think the rest of the time, man, maybe we hang in there, but I don't see us winning a lot of games against the Orioles. They're a good team.
Quickly, before I pass the rock to you with the next 2 topics about the rosters and the managerial records, my prediction, I'm hoping for 1 out of 4. Something tells me
Don't say a sweep, James. Don't say a sweep, James.
Just like last season, I think it's going to be a clean sweep by the Baltimore Orioles. I might be the only person on this network that sees the negative all the time.
No, Courtney does.
Yeah, too. Yeah, sure. But I can't see them winning. I'm hoping Ohtani's, starts well enough and then he helps himself. That would be awesome. Maybe some fans are there for Mike Trout that are coming down from Jersey, bro. So hopefully that'll be the case and they get 1 win. But for me, hopefully it's a jinx. I'll say a clean sweep by Baltimore. I just think they do everything the Angels don't do, which is steal bases, run correctly, run fast, run hard, and score. It's just a total opposite of what the Angels should be, honestly. So, Fernando, I'll give it to you. I know you wanted to compare the 2014 Angels to this ball club this season. And as I'm looking at the roster 2014, I only noticed there's 1 player left from this current roster in 2023, and that's Mike Trout.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we were talking about on the post-game show was the fact that we can all cohesively agree as Angels fans. This year's roster on paper is probably the best, most talented roster we've seen in about 10 years, right? Fair to assume?
Yeah. I mean, I like that 2015 roster, and I felt like they had a chance to get there. But, yeah, I mean, excuse me, the moves that Perry made, it felt like, okay, we got a starter. We got maybe a closer with Estevez. We got Renfroe via trade and Urshela the same thing. And then, made some other signings that may fare well. So the hope is there, at least, that maybe you have a complete roster of, some veteran players mixed in with some young players, as you call it, Neto, and what he can do and what he's shown so far with his defense and his batting. But yeah, maybe I'll say that. Maybe I'll agree with you on that.
So, let's real quick go through the 2014 roster. And I mean, let's be honest, the bulk of our roster this year is better than most of these guys. So Chris Iannetta at catcher, I'm taking a healthy Logan Ohioppi right now over Chris Iannetta. I loved Chris Iannetta. Big Chris Iannetta guy. But Logan Ohioppi, a young, healthy Logan Ohioppi, I'm still taking over Chris Iannetta. First base, I'll take the 2014 Albert Pujols over what we have at first base right now. Maybe when Walsh comes back, if he comes back healthy. Well, who do we have at first base right now? Gio Urshela, actually. That's a tough one. Gio Urshela is one of our hottest hitters right now. But remember, 2014 Albert Pujols hit 272. And he had an on-base percentage of 324.
And the next year he was an all-star, the only time an all-star is an Angel.
Yeah, which is crazy. So, yeah, I mean, either way, 2014, Albert Pujols and I think Gio Urshela crossed each other out. Either way, you can't go wrong. But Howie Kendrick at second base, he had a good year. Eric Ibar at shortstop. I like Eric Ibar, but I'm still taking Zach Neto right now over an Eric Ibar who at that age was, approaching his 36? His something like that. He was getting up there in his 30s. So I'm taking a young Zach Neto over Eric Ibar. I think Zach Neto has a lot of potential. David Freese over at third base. I love David Freese. He gave us a game one lead against the Royals in the 2014 playoffs. Unfortunately, they couldn't hold on to it. I think Chris Iannetta also hit a home run in game one. I was there. Josh Hamilton. That was one of the only decent years we got out of him. We batted, 263. So, hooray. Mike Trout, obviously Mike Trout's still Mike Trout. Cole Calhoun in right field, that was one of his best years, batted 272. And CJ Cron. The starting lineup, not bad in 2014. The biggest issue was the bench. Colin Cowgill. I'm sure a lot of Angels fans completely forgot that guy ever existed. Hank Conger, he was always a disappointment when he was drafted. Raul Ibanez came over. Efren Navarro, he was one of my favorite players, but he wasn't very good. Grant Green, the guy who was drafted before Mike Trout. John McDonald, I make fun of him on the post-game show today. He batted a solid 171 through 91 plate appearances. So he was the Komodo hat guy. He was the Brett Phillips on that team. That was his role. He was just there for the vibes. Who could ever forget JB Shuck? Of course, Brennan Bosch, Ian Stewart, Gordon Beckham. I remember Gordon Beckham. He hung around for a little while. And then the starting rotation was kind of the biggest reason why the Angels had the success they did. You had Garrett Richards, who established himself that year as a solid a solid pitcher. That year in 2015 were his best career years. The rest of them, he was hurt the bulk of the time. Tyler Skaggs, rest in peace. CJ Wilson had an average year. Matt Shoemaker was obviously a Rookie of the Year candidate. Jared Weaver had a solid year. So there you have it. The 2014 roster was pretty good, but I don't think it was incredible. They won what, 98, 99 games? They were a solid team, but compared to what we have this year, I mean, look at our current roster. Is our roster on paper right now not better than the 2014 roster, James?
Man, what hurts is not having no Hoppy, so you don't really know if he would perform better than Iannetta. Iannetta, to me, I just remember him. He would hit maybe, 2 home runs a month or 3 home runs a month, and then that would be it, honestly. But he threw some doubles in there. Only hit 7 home runs that year. So maybe it was 1 home run a month like Maldonado does for Houston now. But you could definitely see the star power is there more with this Angels or 2014 Angels, maybe more than Ohtani and Trout. I mean, I don't think you consider Hunter Renfroe a superstar, but Pujols and Hamilton, what he was supposed to be, and Trout. I remember actually that the 2014 season, I think it was May 9th, I want to say, around this time in 2014. I remember CJ Cron being called up, and I was at his first game, and he went off. And it just seemed like the month of May was always his month, and then he would disappear the rest of the year. So that was unfortunate every time CJ Cron is mentioned. When you think about, the starting rotation, I think you have more trust in Weaver, Wilson, and Richards than you do, let's say, this year's roster, because maybe you could trust Ohtani and Sandoval. But with Tyler Anderson, he's not showing it. Suarez is bad, but then Detmers is still young. Griffin Canning, he's just on his way back. Silseth is young. And that's pretty much it. When you think about it, Santiago was a veteran. Skaggs was just coming up. Shoemaker was okay when he was 16-4. I remember he wasn't an all-star, but he should have been. I think it was actually. But when you see these wins and loss records of this year of 2014, I don't think the Angels will ever have, close to the 20-game winner ever again with this roster, at least with these players that are up here. So the starting pitching is way better. And you look at the bullpen too, and this is my last point. you have a proven closer like Houston Street. I always liked watching him, and I knew I could count on him. So I really liked Houston Street. Frieri was there as well. Rich Hill was a young, pitcher, but he had a young Barosian, and then he was horrible after a while. But there were some good things about this 2014 team that you wish would come to this year's team, which is a more veteran presence. And I think Jared Weaver would be the one guy in the locker room that would stand up and say something. I don't think the Angels have that in this year's team, honestly. So I think this was the first year without Torrey Hunter. I think this was the year before he went to Detroit. So they lost a little bit of that clubhouse leadership, but they had it with Weaver. But yeah, I would take the starting pitching for sure. Oh yeah, and the bullpen. I'm sorry. So Joe Smith, the lefty, he was awesome. Fernando Salas was awesome. Morin and Jepson were young. That feels like someone from the roster in 2023. So I miss having a real experienced bullpen. Let's just say that, Fernando.
Yeah, the bullpen right now is definitely a feature that's lacking right now. I mean, Fernando Salas had a great year that year, and I was not a Fernando Salas fan because I remember him in 2015 not doing as well, and then I think they brought him back on a minor league deal the next year. But we don't have that lockdown closer right now. I thought we did with Estevez, but his very last start he got lit up, and that's going to happen. I get it, but and I haven't lost faith in Estevez. I want to make that clear too. But God, I just need him to be that guy. We all do.
That's a tough thing though, because I don't think he was really dependent on like that in Colorado. The pressure now of coming to the Angels and all the pressure there, it just adds on to it. But hopefully he can be our closer. He's signed for another year, I believe. So we've seen when he's really confident, he's really throwing really good stuff. So you can tell after every save he has, he's telling Matt Thaiss, it's like, hey, I got this, I got this, I got that. I'm here with the location. I got it. So when he's confident, he's on. Let's just say that.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I've got on the roster differences. Anything you want to add?
No, I just want that damn bullpen. I want a chance to win every game. The thing I think we were all robbed of maybe Josh Hamilton that will play out the rest of his career, that he could have been really good. It's good memories. I should have worn my 2014 divisional shirt, but it's in the closet over there, and I haven't worn it in, it seems like a year or so. But it is demoralizing.
Yeah, mine has a bleach stain.
That does happen after a while, yeah. It's just demoralizing that, hey, that's the last time that the Angels have been to playoffs, and it just doesn't feel good, Fernando. So you wanted to go compare Mike Scioscia's 2000 record and how he's doing compared to Phil Nevin's record so far this season. Is that correct?
Well, so Phil Nevin has now managed 146 games total in his managerial career for Major League Baseball. So he is currently 67-79. Now I'm aware that that's not still a full Major League season, but it gives us an idea. He's got a career winning percentage so far of .459. Now Mike Scioscia in his first season in the year 2000 was 82-80. So he did have a winning record. Now his second year was a lot worse at 75-87. But the reason why I really bring it up is because 2002 was obviously the shining star, the 99 win Angels that won the World Series. Now, what I alluded to on the post-game show is that I'm well aware that the players need to buy into a culture that the manager is trying to start. Now, the biggest issue with the Angels over the last couple of years has been the fact that they haven't been able to rely on a manager, right? They had Mike Scioscia After that, they had Brad Ausmus for a season, fired him, brought Joe Madden on a 3-year deal, fired him after 2.5 years, hired Phil Nevin in the interim, and then gave him a 1-year contract. So the biggest issue is the simple fact that there is a lot of constant change. Now, what you need to do is you need to pick a manager, a good manager that you feel can lead the charge. Now, I understand that's easier said than done. But the biggest thing is once you find that manager, you got to give him the keys to the kingdom. I mean, what if after 2001, the Angels got frustrated with Mike Scioscia and just fired him? I don't think that Phil Nevin's necessarily the answer. I hear a lot of people saying Benji Gill, and I'd like to see what Benji Gill could do. He had a lot of managerial experience down in Tijuana. He managed the World Baseball Classic Mexico team pretty well, and that was a team that wasn't supposed to be very competitive, by the way. You know, they had a solid roster, but, I mean, they almost took down, Japan, right? They beat the U.S. Not only did they beat the U.S., they embarrassed the U.S., who were obviously the better offensive team. So I'm not saying that that's the reason why Benji Gill should get hired, but Benji Gill should certainly get a look at the end of this season. The way we're playing right now with the mistakes that have been made, I don't see Phil Nevin coming back. Yeah, am I counting my chickens before they hatch? Sure. I'm not exactly saying I'm calling for Phil Nevin's head right now. He's not going to get fired before the All-Star break. Let's be honest. And he's probably not going to get fired during the season. It's on a 1-year deal. Why would you fire somebody in the middle of a season on a 1-year deal? It's stupid. You know, what if Buck Showalter gets fired? I know a lot of people are like, oh, I've always liked Buck Showalter. That's just a name I'm throwing out there. What if for some reason Dusty Baker gets fired? You know, I know Tom likes Dusty Baker. Let's bring Dusty Baker. Point is, Phil Nevin's going to finish this year. One of two things is going to happen. I promise you this. The Angels are going to either make the playoffs or they're not going to make the playoffs. If the Angels make the playoffs, Phil Nevin's not going anywhere. That's the fact. They're not going to fire him if we make the playoffs. All will be forgiven. Who cares about the slow start? Who cares about the errors? Who cares about those base running mistakes? We don't care. We made the playoffs. And honestly, that's how we're going to feel as fans. If we make the playoffs, we're all going to eat crow, and I'm going to be super happy that we finally made the playoffs. And Phil Nevin's probably going to be here for the next 5 years at least. Maybe 3 years. I'd say 3 years. But the problem with the Angels has been their lack of the ability to create a winning culture. And I think it starts with the front office. I mean, we've fired the medical staff. We've revamped the coaching staff multiple times. We've revamped the roster. We've got new general managers. And notice that nothing much changes. And I think it starts with the top, and it trickles its way down. We have all been Artie Moreno haters, if you will. And the reason for that is just because the guy's a bad person, right? Countless things. We can go down the list.
Yeah.
Was it because he hired Dick Pick Mick, which was apparently the worst kept secret in baseball? This man was sending no OnlyFans photos to women for information about inside news with the Mets. Apparently that was the worst kept secret in baseball. Even when he was with Cleveland, that this guy is sending no pickies. But anyway, we hired him anyway, and then we had to fire him midway through. The whole pandemic thing, the whole minor league thing, the list goes on and on. The Tyler Skaggs and the way the organization, and specifically Artie Moreno's handled it, the fact that he tried making an under-the-counter deal with the city of Anaheim, the list goes on and on. Artie Moreno is a bad person. It really does start at the top and work its way down, James.
That's what I was going to mention. You know, when this came out, is like, and I always ask people, or they ask me, excuse me, they're like, why are the Angels so bad, and why haven't they done well? It just starts from the top, honestly. Getting to your managerial part here, there's been, you mentioned so much change, and throughout the organization. The one thing that stayed the same, the farm system really hasn't. Well, it's gotten a little better the last 4 years or so, but before that it was really bad. Before that it was really good, like we were talking about earlier. and yeah, I think Nevin, this is just a one-stop shop for him, one shop stop for him. So, um, and the thing is, I know a lot of people were reacting to the way that Nevin's handled the bullpen the last couple of nights and whatnot. Excuse me. You can't fire someone just off of 2 nights. It has to be a string of things. Like with Madden, it was a losing streak, right?
Yeah, a
So
historic losing streak at that.
yeah, I remember all of that. Um, uh, so you can't do that. Like you said, you can't do it. All-Star break, you can't do that. And I wouldn't even do it. August and September. I know Benji Gill would probably want a shot at it, and he might fire up the guys, but there's no guarantee that the season will go well enough, that the team will do well, Tani will stay. There's none of that. It just all depends on how you do now. Um, Phil Devin definitely isn't the guy going forward. I never thought he was, and I'm not saying this just because of how the team's performing now. I'm just saying this because he was only an intern last year, and I guess Mike Trout vouched for him, the players vouched for him, whatever the case was. That's great and all, but you have to win. And if he's not making an impact in the locker room, in the clubhouse, out on the field, if he's not encouraging people to do their best and whatnot, it just sounds so little league. But when you think about it, I do hear him from the dugout, especially on the radio. He'll call out the players, "Let's go," whatever, Shohei, Trout, Mike, or whatever, and that's great and dandy. But it's like the performance has to be there. So, even if the Angels, to me, even if they have a winning record but don't make the playoffs, I can't see Phil Nevin coming back. I've always wanted Ron Washington. I always thought, Perry Manazian was in the Atlanta system for a while, and Ron Washington has been there. He's been, he was the Oakland third base coach for years, was the
James,
Texas
he's been everywhere.
Yeah, Texas manager, went to a couple World Series, had some great ball clubs with Texas, as we know. We faced them and we lost to them so much during the 2010s, except 2014. But they got us in 15 and every other year. Remember, they were coming actually in 2009. We just won the division in 2009. But Texas was right on our backs there. I think like 5-6 games back, honestly, when the season ended. So you could see Ron Washington and Rangers were building up something. And that's what I would really want. I think Ron Washington would hold people accountable. He would teach the fundamentals, which we don't see with the Angels, like we were talking about earlier. You see him working with all of the Braves players, like on even Ozzy Albies, who is awesome in his position in the infield. He works daily with him, going through the drills. He worked with Pete Alonso at the All-Star game. And I thought that was amazing because Atlanta is a divisional rival with the Mets, but he was working on him how to play first base. Imagine the little things like that, the little fundamental things that you could teach someone. And then you won't have these errors like you do this season. Now, it's different with Rendon because he's just going to be Rendon. He's going to be lackadaisical. That's just him. But maybe everybody else can set an example of like, hey, this is how we do things. And it all starts with Ron Washington and his hands-on approach. So I mentioned it last year when Madden was fired. I said, cool, have Nevin just for last season, the rest of last season, and then get someone new for 2023. And they didn't. And I was kind of shocked because I didn't want Phil back. I thought, even though he's a third base coach, with the Yankees, he had his mishaps, sending people at the wrong time. We certainly saw that in this series. But those little things I remember with Phil Nevin that made me believe he would not be a sustainable manager, for the years coming. So if there was a manager I wanted, I would say Ron Washington. I don't know if he would want to, though, because remember the downfalls he had with Texas. being one strike away or one out away in 2011, getting back against the Giants and losing. So I don't know if he wants to manage again, but if he does, for me, that's the first person I'm calling to be the new Angels manager.
Yeah, they'll have to install oxygen tanks. The guy's like 106 years old, but I mean, definitely a great.
Yeah,
But
I just I want to win.
No, and I'm right there with you, man. And the unfortunate thing is that we're talking about a series here that wasn't played well. It wasn't managed well. It wasn't coached well on the base paths. You know, it wasn't like the offense didn't score. You know, the offense scored a good enough amount of runs in all three games where they should have been competing for a win. It was bad mistakes by the pitching. It was pitching to the wrong guys. Look at one of the last game. One of the things that we didn't talk about was the fact that they intentionally walked to get to Josh Naylor to then make a pitcher change to a righty. What? Why would you intentionally walk? Who was it? Jose Ramirez, who's a righty.
Yeah.
To face the lefty when Patrick Sandoval was on the bump. Okay, I get it, because you want a lefty-lefty matchup with Naylor and Sandoval. And Naylor's historically not been good against lefties. I know we said that with the whole Matt Moore thing, and Matt Moore gave up a home run. So I understand that it doesn't always work out. But once again, these are major league hitters. Sometimes they are going to beat you. That's just the way the game works. But you got to give yourself the best opportunity. I think Sandoval was about 98 pitches, but you at least got to let him finish off against Naylor if you're going to intentionally walk Ramirez to get to Naylor to have a lefty-lefty matchup. Stupid decision. Those are the decisions that get you fired, James. It is those decisions. I'm sure there is an analytical playbook, but something tells me the analytics wouldn't say, hey, we want a righty versus lefty matchup against Josh Naylor, who's a good fastball hitter and is pretty decent against righties, but sucks against lefties. That doesn't make sense to me. That's a head scratcher. Maybe that's the move Ron Washington doesn't make, but there's only one way to find out. Either way, Phil Nevin, if we make the playoffs, is probably going to stick around. If we don't, no way in hell he's sticking around. So this is one that we can probably talk all about, and we'll probably continue to talk all about it, but that's what I've got to say.
Yeah, and to close that out, I just remember once that move was made and then you're pitching to Naylor and he hit the home run, I just started to run as fast as I could on the trail. I was so pissed. And I didn't want to yell out of sheer, awkwardness, but I did it with my legs. I was so pissed because I'm like, dude, Naylor's killed you Friday night. He's a power force, and now you're pitching to him in that way. It's just awful. But man, hopefully, yeah, I'm not gonna be a honk. Man, I said hopefully, man, maybe we get 2 out of 4, but it's not.
Show me your honks, James. Show me your honk.
I don't have one. Yeah, hopefully get 1 out of 4, but like I said, a sweep. So again, everybody go 714 tickets for all the ticket needs, concerts. I gotta go see Beyonce and Madonna and whomever else.
James loves Madonna and Beyonce.
Hey,
I used it for WWE tickets, so
that's right, you did. You had a great view of everything too, from what I saw.
Yeah, great. I was only like 80 feet away from the ring, so that was pretty good.
That's right. So again, happy Mother's Day to everybody out there as we're recording this. Go to 714 tickets. Take your mother out to a concert. I saw that reel one day about Foo Fighters and this mom being taken out by her son. So I think that'd be an awesome thing. Next for her birthday or something. Or if she's an Angel fan, God bless her. She's probably been through a lot like us.
Poor soul.
Get the best deals right across the street from the Honda Center. No gimmicks, no surprises, no stuff at the checkout. Put in that code HEDY for 10% off. And do we want to shout out our new sponsor, the Noble L Works, the brewery right across the street from the on Catella, I should say, right off Catella. I can't wait to try some of their stuff and possibly do some food reviews. So shout out to our new sponsor, Noble L Works, and we'll have some heaty nights there. pregame shows, giveaways, whatever the case may be. I'm excited for the future for this channel, and I intend to stick here for a while.
James, do you want to try the Cinnamon Toast Crunch IPA with me?
Yes,
At
I
Nobel
was
House?
going to mention that, but I was like, yeah, I don't want to mention it. But yeah, cinnamon roast crunch.
Okay.
That's going to be awesome.
All right. Well, I think the plan is after the game when I fly out there on May 28th that we're gonna go after the game. So maybe we'll see some of our listeners there. We'll be in contact about all that. I know we want a lot of our fans to come out for an unofficial Halos in the Infield meetup that day. I'm flying out there, so I want to see all of you guys there. I'm super excited to see James and the rest of the crew. Brother, thanks for coming on and filling in for everyone else today. I hope you had a good day. I hope you had a good Mother's Day. I hope all is well with the family, and can't wait to see you at the Big A on May 28th.
Likewise, Fernando. Everyone take care. Thank you for having me on tonight.
Have a great day, everybody. Viva Los Angelitos.